All right, I stumbled across an interesting article from Axios. It goes, Scoop, KARI Lake among four women Trump's considering for VP pick. Former President Trump is strongly considering picking a female running mate and sees KARI Lake as a model for his vice presidential pick. According to people who discussed the topic with him, why it matters. Trump is already gaming out the general election in November 2024, and he knows he has a massive weakness with the white suburban women he would need to beat President Biden. Lake, a former TV anchor who lost her race for Arizona governor in November, meets Trump's most important qualification for a number two. She has shown she's willing to defend him vociferously no matter the issue or controversy. But Trump friends say Lake carries a big downside. He wants no risk that his running mate could outshine him. Lake would be assumed to be angling for president from the day she entered the White House. She made a political trip to Iowa last month. And of course, losing her winnable governor's race, which she challenged, hurts her mojo. Trump spokesperson Stephen Schum said anyone who thinks they know what President Trump is going to do is seriously misinformed and trying to curry favor with potential VP candidates. President Trump will choose his running mate on his own time, and those who are playing the media game are doing so at their own peril. Between the lines, the characteristics Trump is most looking for are, ironically, quite like former Vice President Mike Pence, with whom he's no longer on speaking terms. Trump wants someone who is unfailingly loyal and bland enough that they don't steal any spotlight. Some close to Trump think Nikki Haley, former South Carolina governor and his ambassador to the UN, might be the best fit. She's his best known declared opponent for the GOP nomination. He calculates she doesn't take a single vote from him. Another strong fit might be Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was Trump's White House press secretary. Trump recently asked her for an endorsement in the presidential race, and she demurred, as the New York Times' Maggie Haberman reported, but Sanders left an opening to embrace Trump if he looks like a winner. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem also is frequently mentioned by Trump confidence as having strong Veep potential. So, this is interesting article because, and look, somebody could say, oh, we're a year away from the election and Trump's hasn't even won the primary yet, or we don't even know if he's going to win the primary. But I think it's safe to say that he's the odds-on favorite to win it. It's also worth noting that when I do an analysis like this, I try to, again, keep my biases out of discussing like who would be the best pick. So if I were being entirely objective, just no biases, no condemnations, whatever, the best one out of that group is probably Haley. And the reason I say that is because while Sanders might also be someone who he was close to, she's only been governor for like what, a month, 2 months. And I don't think you would want a person who has never held office, has only 2 months of holding office as a heartbeat away from the presidency for 4 years. I think that would be basically I hate to invoke her here, but a Sarah Palin 2.0, where it's someone who people don't think has enough experience to take over in the case something happens. Whereas Haley can say that she was governor for 6 years, UN ambassador, and also I think a lot of normal voters would be tricked into thinking, oh, this is a moderate person, because when she speaks, there's a certain I find a lot of her statements to be kind of bland for the most part, but at least when she talks, you're not going to see anyone say she was pushing this extreme position. Now, some people will actually pay attention to what's being stated and say that's ridiculous, but I think she by virtue of gender and being a minority can get those low information voters who don't pay attention to this stuff that much to get to back Trump's ticket. I think he probably more so, and the reason Haley is someone I didn't really want to bring up here that much is that Trump probably is the least open to having her as his running mate because she's running against him, and it he could say this is disloyal, whatever. But I would also say that out of this group, she makes the most sense to me just based off the fact that if she were his running mate, she could say, I have foreign policy experience as the UN ambassador. I have governing experience as the governor of South Carolina. So I know how to, get things. That's something she could do even without people, actually going into a record and finding out how awful she was. Now, I feel like Trump probably out of that group favors Lake and Noem the most. Um, Lake because again that's someone who defends him like crazy, but Lake has the same problem except even more so because she lost her race. I mean, again, Haley had a term and a half as governor. Um, Noam is not Noam, excuse me. Lake is someone who hasn't had any whatsoever. Um, so, but then again, Trump might not care because he's the person who was the first president ever to have no experience in military or in public office. So he might see that as a plus. But although you have to ask yourself, if you're being objective, do you really want to have a ticket where both of the candidates have no prior experience with holding office? I don't think so. Well, not well. I guess Trump wouldn't count anymore as that. But my point is that I think one of the reasons picking Pence was so good for his ticket back, 2016, was that was someone who had been governor, congressman. That was an experienced like person he could contrast very well with. That can kind of ease some of the more, the voters that thought Trump was a little too eccentric. And I think Haley probably is the best out of this group. Although Noam is another example because she's just as right wing as Trump, if not more so than Pence with her, insanity. With I don't even want to get into it, but she probably would be the safest pick as far as who I think he would grab or gravitate toward, by virtue of defending him, not as much as Lake, but being nominally on his side, having very similar positions. Yeah, I have to say she probably would be the strongest one. Although what's interesting about this article is that I was hearing that he was thinking of putting Marjorie Taylor Greene on the ticket. What happened to her? Like, I mean, I don't think she would help his chances, and it really would just be the insane right wing ticket from from beneath the earth. But at least she can say, "Hey, I've had multiple terms as a congresswoman." You know, Sanders just became governor less than 2 months ago, so I'm gonna say out of this group, and this article is significant because Trump is the front runner, so it's very likely that he might win this race. So who he picks is something that does matter, even if it's this early on. But I'm gonna say the one that that I think he probably would pick out of this group was Noam, and then the one that would make the most sense would be Haley. But he's not gonna pick Haley probably because she's disloyal by running against him. So this was an interesting article. I like it when they and we could be completely wrong. He could pick some guy or some other person that wasn't even on this list. But it's significant to notice this stuff because it's a nice window into time to see kind of whether this stuff pans out or not.